What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly lure lowdown. So this week we've got arguably, I don't know, there's not an argument. This is the hottest technique that we've seen probably since the umbrella rig, several years ago. And that is the Jighead Minnow. So this is played for probably 80% of the bass that I have caught in tournaments this year. It's just kind of the way things have worked out. The fisheries that we've been to and the times that we've been there. And let's face it, bass like to eat shad. And so almost anywhere that we go, they're going to eat some sort of shad forage or shad shape. So I want to give you a lowdown on kind of what I learned this year and what worked for me, what didn't. Just kind of all things Jighead Minnow. So the number one player for me this year was the 4-inch scope shad. Now I threw a ton of great big minnows. I threw a couple tournaments. I threw a really small one. But this is the 4-inch electric shad, and if there's one minnow that I feel like kind of has to be in everybody's tackle box, it's this size and this color. Again, that's the 4-inch scope shad and electric shad. It's just it fits every style or every species of forage that we're gonna target throughout the year. And so to start with the Jighead Minnow, gosh, we could spend 45 minutes on this, but so this is arguably the most fickle bait of anything in my boat. Meaning you could have all of the right tools and have one little thing wrong and they just don't seem to bite it. You'll get those followers, but they just, to get that extra commitment level, there's a few little tricks. And so this is the Buckeye G-Stroll head. This is a head that I use a lot on my smaller minnows. You'll notice it's got a very small shank here. It's a very heavy duty, heavy wire hook, but it doesn't go way back in our baits. And that's something that's very important when talking about minnows. And again, we generally think we want our hooks to go as far back in any bait, whether it's a minnow or not. But what I'm learning with forward facing is the majority of the bass actually will come up from under a bait and hit it head first. And so, both for action and for hookup percentage, I'm actually going with a really short shank on a lot of my baits now. But I want to show you, there's a couple different things that we can do to give this bait a different action. So one of the biggest tricks that will save you a ton of followers is slightly, and I mean slightly, add a little rise to our minnow here. So you can see we've kind of got a little bit of a banana shape there, and I'll stretch this out to kind of exaggerate it. We don't want it this much, when we're actually fishing, but again, you can see that upward angle. The tail is now higher than the head of our jig or the head of our bait. What this is going to do, so I'm going to scoot it down here. What this is going to do is allow us to really get this bait to rock around and act naturally in the water. If we were to tear this and actually go a little too far, so now again, you'll notice our tail is lower than our jig head. It's really going to have a kind of an erratic, wobbling, kind of a hunting action to it, which I have caught them a few times. But again, I really encourage you to have that upward kind of banana shape. I always want my tail to be higher than my jig head. Already stated, electric shad's by far my number one and kind of my starting place wherever I go throughout the country. And the other color that I have really grown to liking is the Stealth Purple Shimmer. Again, very similar to our blue ice. However, it's got some purple and silver flake involved. So again, these stealth colors, we want them to be translucent, but I like that pop. I like that flash there. And you'll notice this is the 3-inch size in comparison to our 4-inch size. So it's quite a bit of difference there. I really think bigger is better in terms of largemouth in particular. Obviously we get into the spots and smallmouth, things, can be a little bit different. But I like to start big, and again, we've got the drawing power, we've got that, that visibility there with the 4-inch. And again, they're almost always going to lean more towards that bigger, heavier meal. So I'll start with my 4-inch and work my way down to the 3. So let's talk about how to fish the jighead minnow. So one of the most important things is actually your rod. I can't stress that enough. The biggest mistake that I see made with the jighead minnow is using too stiff of a rod. The rod of choice for me this year has been the Dobyns Cadence Series 700 SF, so that's an ultralight. Although that's a little misleading. It really does have a lot of backbone there, and it's fairly stiff, say the back third of the rod. But again, with the jighead minnow, the most important thing is to have a really, really limber, flexible tip there. When we're shaking this minnow and winding it, you don't actually want this thing to be darting and dipping and kind of jumping all over the place, which is exactly what that stiff rod tip will do. It won't allow enough give, so you're making direct contact with the bait itself. Those lighter rods, again, that 700 SF, it's got a perfect tip on it with enough backbone. When I make connection with that bait, I'm actually just popping the slack out of my line. And again, it's going to give this bait a really cool, kind of a mesmerizing rolling action. Really, really unique. I'm going to throw that on, 15 to 20 pound braid with a 10 to 15 pound fluorocarbon leader. Again, all just kind of depending on where I need it to be in the water column. But again, if you'll get that steady cadence of, and it's a little hard, it's kind of like rubbing your belly and patting your back at the same time, to get that consistent shake with a very slow but steady wind with your reel handle, and you'll get this bait to really start rocking and doing what it's supposed to. So I encourage you, lighten up your rods, slow your reel turns down, your revolutions down, and give this thing a real nice steady pop with that light action rod, and this thing's going to start dancing for you real soon. So y'all be sure to go check out the scope shads and a G-stroll at Sportsman's Warehouse or a retailer near you.